Welcome back, my friends. If you don't know me, my name's Chris, and today we're going to chat about the MT48 and the Apollo X series. Do I want the Apollo? Do I want the MT48? Why does this question matter, Chris? To you, maybe it doesn't. But to some, it might be a decision that they're trying to make. That's something that I found myself doing about 2 weeks ago. So I want to walk you guys through what I did and the choice that I made in hopes that I help somebody down the road make their choice. This is just going to be a chill conversation between a couple geeks. I'm not going to get too deep into technical specifications because I think that anybody could go online, Sweetwater, B&H, or just the website, and take a look at those specs and kind of cross compare. I just want to have a conversation like a real human being and let you know what I did. So I think context matters, and I don't want you guys to think I have a bias, so I'll start with this. I had an Apollo X6 as early as 2018, and this is something I did purchase with my own money. I started using the MT48 in 2023, and this is something I didn't have to purchase because I work for Neumann. So let's talk about some of the things that I liked most about the Apollo and the MT48. I should make it clear that I've had at least 6 years experience on the Apollo series and about 2 to 3 years of experience on the MT48. So what did I like about the Apollo? I really loved that it felt like I was working in a studio, and I think that's what their whole brand relies on. You've got these plug-in emulations, the Unison pre's, and you're able to track in real time with compressors and EQs and all sorts of hardware that we all know and love. Obviously, when you have that at your fingertips and maybe you've been used to using that stuff out in the field or your mentor is used to using those things, it's easy to translate and understand how to get the sound you want up front. This is something that is obviously one of the biggest selling points of the Apollo, and something I wouldn't ignore. I'd say the thing that I loved most about the MT48 was its flexibility and its converters. So what I mean by flexibility and what I'd like to compare it to is it's basically a Swiss Army knife. This thing can do anything you could think of, anything that you want it to do, it exists somehow, some way. There are some menus that you may have to dive through, and some users aren't in love with that. But once you spend some time with it, it really does become pretty simple. I remember coming from the Apollo, I was really apprehensive with the MT48. I work for Neumann, so I thought to myself, I'll try this thing so I can help customers, but it's not like I'm gonna convert and just be a MT48 guy. I gave the MT48 a shot. I plugged it in, I unplugged the Apollo, and I told myself, I'll give this a couple weeks. Maybe do a couple test songs, record some stuff, and see how it goes. What I noticed immediately with the converters, the AD converters, is that I was extracting more detail out of my voice. So what I mean by that, it really felt like it was recording a lot more information, especially in the low end. It's something that if you didn't have the MT48, maybe you would never notice or care, but once you've listened to it, you can't unhear it, and you start feeling like while you're recording with, say, the Apollo, after the fact that you're missing something and you have to introduce or add things to it to get that same sound. To me, it would be like having a higher resolution, right? It'd be like, my Apollo is shooting at 1080p and my Neumann MT48 is shooting a 4K shot. Excuse me if my terminology is imperfect, but I'm not a film guy. Point being, I just really couldn't believe how great my voice sounded and how much detail was captured and how much information I was missing by going with the Apollo. Is this something that's an absolute deal breaker? No, but it was really nice to hear. So which one am I using today? The MT48, that's actually why I brought it out here. I haven't used the Apollo in a couple of years now. Primarily, what I'll use the MT48 for is film and music. I do work in the film industry still, and I also work in the music industry. So if somebody's sending me their mixes or masters, I have a fantastic headphone amp on this MT48, and if it's something that I need to record to, say my vocals, obviously it's got amazing A to D conversion, just an incredible recording experience. If I could choose one word to sum up why I would choose the Apollo over the MT48, it would be workflow. If I could choose one word to sum up why I would choose the MT48 over the Apollo, it would be converters. So like I was saying earlier, the Apollo is really fantastic with giving you hardware emulations and, no latency, unison preamps, and allowing you to record through the console application with compressors and EQs and just all these things that make you feel like you have a real studio, but it's digital. And then going back to the MT48 again, I just cannot get over how unreal the converters are. But I will also mention, for the sake of giving you a little bit more information as to how the MT48 works, and so you don't feel totally left in the dark on this detail, the MT48 does have DSP, and it is able to give you reverb, compression, EQ, all that good stuff, just like the Apollo does. The difference would just be that the MT48 is very transparent. Everything on there is clean. It's not meant to sound like a Neve 1073 or like a LA2A compressor, right? Everything in there is very smooth and clean. So think of transparent versus analog edge. I just felt like I had to bring that up because otherwise some people might think, oh, well, if I get one or the other, I'm gonna miss out on some features. Now they both have the same features, they just have different tools within their features, right? So there's an EQ here on the MT48, there's an EQ on the Apollo. One is just geared towards a different audience. Oh, this thing is a beautiful baby. So let me explain why converters matter. So simply put, better A to D converters means that you're getting a more accurate and detailed representation of whatever you're recording. So Neumann's obviously going to use top tier converters with super low noise and high dynamic range. If you were to describe it, it would be clean and true. So what I would consider to be the competitor of the MT48 here would be the Apollo X4. They've got a similar form factor. It's a desktop audio interface. They both have great things to offer. They're both within the same price range, and there's clear advantages if you go one way or the other. The Apollo X4 is going to give you more inputs, but the MT48 is going to give you the better converters. Both of them are expandable, so I don't think it really matters. All right, so to wrap this up, did I end up picking the Neumann MT48 or the Apollo X6? When I came to that fork in the road about 2 weeks ago and I had to pick between the MT48 and the Apollo, I did end up going with the MT48. To me, I felt like losing the converters was a bigger sacrifice than losing, say, the LA2A 1073 emulators and unison pre's while tracking. It's more important in what I do to have a nice transparent, clean, smooth signal going in, and then from there taking that signal and adding whatever color box I need, in my DAW. With the Apollo, I guess that is possible. You could just take all of the plugins off, right, in recording. But one, at that point, why do you have it then? That's one of the main selling points. Two, when you do that, it just doesn't have the same sound that an MT48 does because of the converters. It's not because, oh, well, one's adding a saturation or one's like a 1073, pre versus a tube pre or something. No, this is simply because one has better converters, one's capturing more information, and that just so happens to be the MT48. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close this video out. I hope that hearing my thought process and a little bit of my experience helps you decide what your next interface is gonna be. That being said, it's really awesome seeing you guys again, and if you have any questions, feel free, just leave them down in the comments. I reply pretty often, so happy to chat.